Hello, everybody, and Happy New Year. This is a new year 2024 and a new season for Multifamily Chronicles. I have a lot of great news to share with you all. First of all, this year we're bringing guest co hosts to the show, and I do want to introduce the first guest co host to you. Welcome, Luisa Luperdi.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Adrian, for having me.
And Luisa, I'm gonna hand this over to you so you could introduce our guest for today.
Absolutely. So excited. And today we have Chris Moreno, or better known as Mr. PropTech, in the house. Hello, Chris. How are you? Happy
Great.
New
Thanks for
Year.
having me on. I'm so excited to be with you both. I'm a avid listener, but really my first time I actually dive in deep.
So excited to have you on. So, I want to ask just the first question for all our listeners. Can you tell us what prop tech means? What
Yeah.
is prop tech?
There's quite a few different definitions of prop tech. At the simplest form, it's just two words: property and technology. So it basically breaks down to anything that is related to the real estate space that uses technology. And that can be from software to hardware to AI, and to anything that makes those properties more efficient, a better experience. Maybe some people even classify amenities as being a prop tech innovation. And that goes across any type of vertical too. So you'll see a lot of folks though within PropTech who focus on multifamily or focus on operations or focus just on software or focus on development. So there's a lot of verticals within each. I like to call them infinite niches within the PropTech space. So I love PropTech, and I really talk about it in the physical built environment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love that. So, could you share your journey? What led to your nickname, Mr. Prop Tech? What ignited your passion for prop tech and sustainability overall in real estate?
Yeah, so I'll keep it kind of short. Obviously, people can go on LinkedIn and see my bio and see my history. It actually, if I travel back in time, my grandfather, Fred Strauss, was very active in California in development and land planning, and then water. He was actually on the board of the water supply, like for California, the California Snow Survey. And as a kid, I got to read a book called The Water Seekers, realizing how important water was. And so I would travel with my grandfather to Yosemite. I would see the town he was developing called Grizzly Flat, and that got me really excited because we would break up the land. Fast forward, my first job was actually bagging groceries, and then I worked at golf courses waiting tables, and I think that actually kind of set me up as I got into college, got out of college, because college I did not go to school for real estate. I didn't go to school for technology. I took some engineering courses, took some entrepreneurship courses, but it was more about accounting and more financials. And what's funny is when I graduated, I got into procurement at Macy's Corporate, and I was very fortunate to work on a team. First off, I was doing procurement, buying. We had budgets of well over $100 million, and we would implement new technologies, implement new products, and then I got an opportunity to work on a tech and remote implementation team. And this was in 2009. And that's when I saw a move within real estate to consolidate offices, to allow people of this crazy idea to start working remote. And this was in 2009. And it was a cost savings, but also a better way to operate for the teams, to be closer to the regional stores and to understand the businesses within. So in 2009, I left. I met this guy named Arik Levy. I saw this business in my building called Laundry Locker, and it was lockers for dry cleaning laundry. Kind of crazy, but I was like, this is really cool. I'm going to cold call them. Cold called them, went in, met them. Fast forward, joined the team. Said, hey, if this doesn't work out, I'll find another job. But I joined, and we started growing the business, and we evolved that business. We created a new business called Drop Locker, and then another one called Luxor. And the long story short of it is, we saw this problem. We would talk to owners of buildings, and they had packages coming in. They had dry cleaning coming in. They had anything coming into the building, and they were having to deal with it all. So what happened is we evolved into the way to handle all their packages, and we ended up selling Luxor in 2018 to Assa Abloy, which is one of the largest lot companies in the world. And I evolved into angel investing, started investing in multifamily apartment buildings. I absolutely love this space. And for me, it was exciting to get back into investing in startups and helping startups. So yeah, we can go further into more detail, but that's kind of a high level where I'm at today. I just really love working with like innovative founders, innovative capital allocators, and people who are, I don't get metaverse. I'm not really into, I don't get health tech. I love real estate tech.
So Chris, I wanted to follow up to ask you a question about Luxor. How many
Yep.
years have you been with the company?
So I was with Luxor from when we started it. So I joined Laundry Locker in 2010. I think it was like January 5th. And then Drop Locker, I think we established in like 2011. And then we started working on Luxor, I think in about 2012, 2013. I don't think we actually launched our first location until like 2014, if I'm not mistaken. Scaled the business up. It was just a group of four of us. And then we ended up hiring on some sales leaders. So kind of traveled the country looking for great sales leaders. We distributed, so we actually created channel sales. And I stayed on the team until we exited in 2018, and I stayed on for a couple of years after that. So I think I left in 2021, and that's when I joined On Deck to start investing in startups.
So this is about a 11-year run. Am I saying this correctly?
Yeah, that's right.
That's an amazing run, right? 11 years to spend on one project that you believed in, that start with, almost start very little, right? And it turned into something significant. Everybody knows who Luxor is in multifamily space. I'd like to ask you, based on this journey, what are some lessons that you learned in these 11 years of your journey? I'm sure that there was doubt. I'm sure that, people, you ran into a lot of rejection, a lot of naysayers, a lot of people that thought this is stupid or this is never gonna work, right? And what kept you going? So tell us that side of the story that people don't know, right? Because typically people are looking at, oh, this company sold, they made a great exit, this is a great success. But what is the blood, sweat, and tears behind this success story? Well, I like to hear that, because I think it's important for all that are looking up to someone like you to understand what does it take.
So a couple of things. I think number one, and just to be clear, the 11 years was actually on 3 different companies. So Laundry Locker was one company focused in San Francisco, and then Drop Locker was a software platform of that company for dry cleaners and launderers all over the world. So we ended up taking that technology, I think, over like 20 countries, 80 cities, if I'm not mistaken. Like, got to go to New Zealand, Europe, Mexico, Canada, you name it. And that was a blast. We got to work with companies like Procter & Gamble, a lot of corporates. And then Luxor, again, built that. And these were all separate, unique ideas. And even within Luxor, we had different products. And I think to your point is, I fell into real estate. I fell into technology coming out of, like, I was not trained for it. So I had to learn. It was kind of like that, you talk a lot about, we'll talk about imposter syndrome, right? And it's real. And I had a lot of chips on my shoulder, even from college. I remember people telling me like, hey, in Santa Barbara, which is one of the wealthiest places on the planet. Like, I remember a guy telling me at like the golf range once when I was playing out there, he's like, oh man, the real estate is getting crazy here. You never, and he kind of said off the cuff, like, well, sadly, you'll never be able to afford here. He knew I was probably a student. And, people have always told me, you can't do this, or this isn't possible, right? That's been tried before. And you wouldn't believe how many times we heard that every single week, if not almost every day. Like, good luck with that. That's interesting. Oh, that's really cool. I love it. And you hear that day after day, and it's fine, because what keeps you going is when you discover someone who's willing to actually pay you and who actually is really excited about your product. And so that was me, right? I'll tell you, like, the reason I got more excited as time went on is because I used the product initially. And I said, when I was using it, I think I used it for like about a year and a half before I joined the team. And I had it in my apartment building. And I said, I wish I had used this sooner. And then I started meeting more and more people who said, I wish I had known about this sooner. And I think that's one of the key things in any type of business is if you have people who say, I wish I had this. I wish I had met you or taken your phone call, Adrian, a year ago. Gosh, I'm so dumb. Why didn't I do that? And it's so funny. I think if you find things like that are like need to haves, and also when you're early in technology. So I love people. It's easy to come to the party and join the race after everyone else is done. It's easy to come in and say, oh yeah, we're doing this, right? But it's really hard to be the first one. It's really hard to be the person before you're needed to say, hey, this is what the future is going to look like. And you're that lone person on the mountain. So luckily I wasn't alone. Like I joined this guy named Arik, who not only became my best friend, but the amount of time we were spending together, but was incredibly brilliant. He was an engineer. He did all the back. He was running the business. I joined the team, and I was really more the front side of the growth, getting out there in the business. And so for me, I think what I learned, I got to learn a lot of valuable lessons from him, which is like, don't focus on everything, focus on the thing that matters, and realize that you're going to have a lot of naysayers and you're going to have a lot of things that are going to be impossible. And that's what I love is like, I think solving the impossible. How do we, like every day when I wake up, I know there's going to be things that are part of my process, part of my daily routine. There's going to be things that are impossible or that appear impossible. But I've got it easy, right? I think we all have it easy. There's people launching rockets to other space, things. I've got this iPhone in my pocket. I don't know how the heck it works, how we can talk to each other. Those are the really, really difficult things. We're just taking pieces of that to implement into our daily lives. So to answer your question, I think more specifically is like, if I think about what I was able to do, it was not me. It was on the backs of many other people who I've gotten to know, like getting to know you, Adrian, and forming a friendship, getting to know, Tara and other, Jennifer, Christine, all these great people. But it's other people out there like Steve Halsey. Steve Halsey believed in us, right? When he was at Amlin and then moving on to Wood, like having people like Toby Bazzuto, who would spend time with me, right? And give feedback, or Stephanie Furman at Graystar. A lot of these leaders, the team over at Camden, giving us great feedback early on, and then, evolving over time. Steve Merchant, who was at Equity Residential, and Equity giving us feedback on the type of product they wanted to see versus what we were building. So, I think that's the great thing about real estate and multifamily and commercial, is that there's so many different ways to go about your business that even if you have 1,000 people tell you no, if you can get 10 people to tell you yes and to pay you money and to help you evolve that product, you can build something really exciting. Because even if, I always think about this is like, we at Luxor, they've done now over, I think, 300 million deliveries, which is insane. And there's other companies like Package Concierge, Parcel Pending, Hello Package, Smart Package. There's all these different products now. Amazon, as well. We work closely with Amazon, UPS, FedEx. The space is infinite. So you had 3 companies, not just Luxor. You had Package Concierge and Parcel Pending all exit in a very short time. So we were all successful. So for me, I think a lot about partnerships. I think a lot about, like, I'm very unique in how I think about building businesses and growing. It's not just ourselves. We are limited in ourselves. We are much stronger when we work with others and we work together and we partner. We can build so much more. So that's why I've been successful, and how I've been, built such a big network of friends, is because I partner with so many people to where my competitors come and work with me and build other businesses, right, in the future. So like, I always tell people, I say, hey, we're competitors today, but we're probably going to work together in the future. And it's true. Like Regan Hartley, one of my, fiercest competitors, came and joined me at Zeal, right? And that was amazing. Like, or I take it back. I referred her to Zeal. I came and joined her and Eric Roseman and the team. So that's something that really excites me, is I don't really love doing things on my own. I love finding great partners who are smarter than me that I want to work with, and then build things. And they fill in the gaps that I don't have, and I fill in the gaps that they don't have. So that's a long-winded way of saying, that's how I like to operate. And that, I think that's some of the success we had.
That's great to hear. Thank you for that. And now, kind of like circling back to you as an investor, just what you were sharing with us. You invest directly in founders, emerging funds, and various ventures. How do you identify promising opportunities in this ever-evolving landscape of prop tech and real estate? I'd like to know. And I'm sure our audience would really want to know that too.
Yeah, so it's funny, Luisa. I think this kind of piggybacks on the last question around naysayers or people telling you can't do something. What I like to look for is what is the core problem and why does it matter? So the problem has to be a big enough problem. And I always like to weigh out, is this a nice to have or is it a must have? And like, would the person be devastated if they couldn't have your product anymore? And I was just at Innovate PropTech recently, talking with some of the large top 10 companies, and they were telling me how they were losing some products from one of the large software companies out there, how they're shutting down one of their products, and they're really upset. They're like, they're paying for these products and they're going to shut it down. And I just find that's what's interesting is when people tell me, oh, this is how it is. Gosh, that space is so big. And was someone working on solving that? No, it's too hard. Or there's companies who have a hold on it. I mean, it's the same thing with Zoom, right? I like to think about Zoom. So like Zoom is a great example of a space where there were already probably like 8 or 9 big players, right? It was like Skype. Who's heard of Skype anymore? WebEx. Who's at WebEx? Those were the leaders at the time, right? Google Meets should have owned the world. Microsoft should have owned the world of video. But who came out of nowhere? Zoom. Like the 20th person doing whatever, video. And they became this massive, massive company. Eric and the team over there, and I got to work with them on deck. They were co-investors. And so I think a lot about what is something unique, whether it's something as simple as Adrian, we both are friends with Dean over at Kairos Water, right? Christine over at Appwork, and Sean. You've got these innovative people who had a background in this space or tinkered in the space. Sometimes they just understood the problem. They saw the problem. They were passionate about that problem, that they either knew a lot and then they learned a lot more. And that's what I look for, is kind of that, like, what is their experience? What is their knowledge base? Why are they interested in this? Because it's not just, Luisa, it's not about, being excited about this for today and the next month and the next year. It's being excited about it to say, I'm going to will this into the world for the next 5 to 10 to 15 years. So when I'm looking for someone to back or to invest in, I'm looking for people who really are thinking long-term, not just for a quick buck. Not just today. I'm looking for a long-term partner, right? A lot of times, people think I'm just investing off the cuff. It's usually after several conversations, whether I'm joining a board, I'm advising, or I'm investing, or I'm working with someone. I always tell someone, like, hey, I get it. Like, seems like I'm the right fit for you, or I should be investing in you. Let's have a couple calls. Here's my process. So I always have a process. I write out a memo. I say, like, I do some diligence on that team. I ask people, what do you think about this space? And I'm not doing it alone. I'm actually reaching out to multiple people. So there's a friend of mine, Ryan Elizari. He's the president of NAOP in New York, over at Empire. I'll get his take. Karen Mayo, phenomenal angel investor and founder. She was co-founder of, I think, Funnel Leasing. She was over at Moved with Adam Pittenger. I'll get her take. People like Stephanie Furman, she was a Greystar, then Catalyst, now Entrada. Matt Knight. I'm also part of several angel groups and investor groups. I'm part of Matt Knight's PropTech group, where we have, I think, over 250 investors, including Fifth Wall, including Spencer Raskoff, and a lot of these incredible people who I get to learn from and see deals to invest in. But then I'm also in family office groups. So I've got family office investment groups. I've got real estate investor groups with NARUP. I've got a group that Mike McCumbee runs out of New York that has VCs and investors all over. So again, it looks like, I think a lot of people think I'm doing it by myself. I actually have a partner. I have other people that I'm working with, and we're looking at deals together. And we're looking at thousands of deals. I've probably looked at over 10,000 deals. And I think one of the most important things is it's not about how many founders I see. It's about the right teams that are building the right things at the right time. Because being early by 5 to 7 years is oftentimes the same thing as being wrong. If you're 5 to 7 years early, you may not be able to ever raise enough capital or generate enough money to stay in business. Whereas, is this something that is going to be needed in the next year or two? And I look at a lot of my experience at Luxor and the challenges we had raising funding. And luckily, packages became a massive thing in 2015, 2016, and Amazon really skyrocketed. So hopefully that's really helpful.
Chris, your involvement spans advisory and fractional leadership roles. What common challenges do founders and CEOs face in PropTech, and how do you help them navigate these hurdles?
Yeah, so I like to talk about a couple things when I'm working with founders. Is first off, like what are their key needs? Like when we're working with someone, it's similar to like myself when I was thinking about the things that I had challenges with. Um, Number one, I'm always tell people be very careful of advice, especially mine. Um, it goes back to what we were talking about of if you have industry experts who tell you that will never be solved, this is the way it is, that actually excites me because Airbnb was illegal. The industry didn't like Airbnb, and now much of the industry is working with Airbnb. And so I think a lot of times if consumers, like Uber is another good example. Uber was illegal. The taxi unions were pushing back against Uber. Cities started implementing laws, and Uber said, okay, hey, public, we know you love us. Go tell your city councilman, go tell go tell people. And I think that's what happens is when you think about, the types of things that are needed. I really like to back founders that have a unique perspective on the world. They are non-consensus. It's not what everyone else is saying. It's not obvious. If it was obvious, everyone would be doing it, right? But they're very clear about what they've proven, what they need to disprove as well. So what have they proven? What do they need to disprove? Do they follow through on what they said, right? So if they're going to send me something, or they follow up, or they mean what they say, that's really important to me. Obviously, we're all busy in life. I'm trying to raise my kids. That's my number one job. Got 3 little kids, and my wife. And so for me, I'm at the stage in life where family comes first above everything. Number 2 is then work. And I'm fortunate to be able to be that way. So I think for me, I love working with the smartest investors, the smartest operators, the smartest allocators of real estate. I'm actually about to leave for coffee in my neighborhood. I live right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Incredible access to incredible investors in real estate, in technology, founders who built billion-dollar companies just down the street. So for me, a big part of it is like learning from them. I love learning from others and spending time with them to hear what they have done and what they're doing now and what they've learned that they can share with me. So I'm meeting with a gentleman today who owns one of the largest real estate and hospitality groups in Georgia. He invests all over the Southeast, and we're going to be talking today about his portfolio and about legacy. And I think with founders, I want to work with people who I know they're unstoppable. When someone tells them no, 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 they're like, oh yeah, we're going to go around you, right? We're going to figure this out. Those are the people that I back. Those are the people I'm going to spend my time with and my hours with. And I'm going to take a call at 10 p.m. at night. I'm going to fly out and see them, and we're going to become close friends. So those are the people I want to help with the challenges I worked on for the last 14 years. I love that. So for me, the money's a commodity at the end of the day. Whether you're investing in real estate, you're investing in startups, that money is a commodity. It's about what can you actually do to help someone. And for me, I don't like helping founders or even teammates or employees to tell them what to do. I love to help them make decisions for themselves. So I think a lot about frameworks, think a lot about process, and I like just helping them brainstorm so they can come up with the ideas themselves. And I always tell founders, like, I'm never going to tell you what to do. I'm going to help you make decisions, and I'm going to give you the confidence to move forward in that decision. So, there's someone else I'll call out, which is Tara, our mutual friend. Runs a great mentor group, and I love, even if it's only half an hour every few weeks or once a month, there's certain people who I mentor, and I get to be a mentee of, that teach me about their experience in real estate and allocating billions of dollars. So
I did follow some of your legacy talk on LinkedIn with Terrace, and that was really fulfilling, to know that there's a successful investor out there that also is really devoted into giving back to the multifamily community. Thank you for that on the side note.
yeah.
And on to my next question. So we heard so much about all these success stories and your perspective and kind of your vision as an investor, but with your experience in various tech sectors, how do you see technology evolving to meet the specific needs that we have today in real estate?
So I think there's so many needs that people have, but it really probably boils down to like two things that they're working on in the next month. We all have 50 or 100 things on our to-do lists, right? Whether it's family, whether it's personal health, whether it's friends, whether it's work, whether it's challenges, right? In sports or working. Like I'm about to run a half marathon. And so I got to get my runs in right now. I'm running with my sister here in Atlanta really soon. And I'm really excited about that. But we have to narrow it down. You got to block out the noise. And so what is the core thing you're working on today? That if you can solve that, for me, it's this podcast. It's going to meet, mentor who I'm going to have coffee with. It's going to have lunch with a person this afternoon. I've got a couple team meetings. Those are the things I need to accomplish. There's email, that's noise. And so I think the same thing with technology that we're going to solve is that there's a ton of noise. And they say at any given moment, only 3% of people are actually looking for your technology to buy right now. And the other 97%, who knows if it's going to be in a month, 4 months, or 4 years, or never. And so the technology has to evolve by understanding the people who buy and use your technology. Because even if the residents really want your technology, the person who cuts the check the gatekeeper has to pay for you to put it in. So you have to evolve to the decision maker, right? And so if your product is the best product out there, right? Luxor is a good example. Like Luxor, we call ourselves the Tesla or the Lexus of lockers. Well, we were a higher priced, but we had incredible technology. And some people were looking just for the lowest cost. And you're going to have that. So a lot of times you have to evolve by creating new products. So we created a new product back in, I think it was like 2016 with like Amley Residential. Maria Banks, who's the CEO over there, and Steve and the team, they really supported that and launched it. And then Equity Residential came behind. Steve Merchant, who was there at the time, Equity was a big supporter and rolled that out nationwide. So we worked with a lot of these larger companies that said, we're not going to buy your core product. You need to evolve into this product for us to be a customer. And you have to be very careful, by the way, if you're a founder that's focusing on this product and people are telling you to go this way or build this or build that, that's actually very dangerous. Very dangerous, because it's easy to like someone says, oh, I want this candy cane. I want that, piece of cake. And it's not actually, they're not willing to pay for it. But these people committed to us and said they'd pay for it, and it became a substantial part of our business. So I think a lot about what's the right time to pivot, who's going to pay you money for it, and what has shown you, if someone's tried this before or other people are doing it, what's shown you that this is going to be a meaningful solution and a meaningful business to go after. Because at the end of the day, we money drives innovation, right? And without money, the greatest ideas can starve and go out of business. So you have to have some kind of business model, or you have to be really, really rich to be able to support something forever, right? So you got to have the money to attract great talent, to attract great engineers, and then to be able to get it to market. The best products, and Adrian and I have had conversations about this, the best products do not sell themselves. And that's just business 101. Now, the best products can have great referral programs. They can have great distribution. They can have great salespeople and leaders with smaller teams. And you can outsource a lot of it. And I love that, like distributing and getting testimonials to where when you go to an event, you may only send one person to NMHC or to NAA and not even have a booth, but people will refer you like crazy. So you'll have a full week of 60 meetings because people want your product, and you don't have to spend $1 million, but you do need to have a process, and you do have to have a great product that your customers are saying, I love this. And oh, by the way, I love 98% of it, but I wish you did this. I love that. I love when customers will tell me or give me feedback and say, I love this, but you need to spend more time on this. And I go, thank you for bringing that up. Like, a complaint is a gift. There's a great book called A Complaint is a Gift. And I love that. So these are things you learn. You don't want to, early on in the days that we said, you don't want to hear no. You don't want to hear, I don't like this. You don't want to hear, I'm leaving you because of X. I've had that happen years ago, right? Where customers left us. And it was a punch in the gut. And I was like, but you know what? We messed up and we need to fix this. And we need to make sure it never happens again. And we earn so much trust with those customers. I mean, many of these people I've now known for 10 plus years, become very close friends. We spend holidays together, events together. I spend a lot of time with them, and invite them over to my house. So anyways, I think innovation, you have to fundamentally continue to evolve. And that's oftentimes why right now, where a lot of venture investment, a lot of development is slowing down because of higher interest rates. The Fed is trying to slow down the economy. This is the time to double down. This is the time to double down on innovation. Now, you have to be very selective. You need to see ROI. You need to see some kind of, it doesn't always have to be dollar, but it needs to solve, it could be cost cutting. But you have to show why the customer should be implementing you right away. And this is the time right now to help people build those businesses. When people are getting laid off, this reminds me of 2010, when the economy was horrible. That's when a lot of great businesses were created, right? We really started to take off in 2010, 11, 12. Uber took off in 2010, 11, 12. Airbnb took off in 2010, 11, 12. So a lot of these great companies, Zoom, right? They kind of took off in these downturns when the large corporations started cutting their budgets, laying people off. And those people said, I'm going to go start a business. I'm going to go solve a problem I saw, right? So again, I get really passionate about founders and their challenges and then how to support them. I love helping people who are told, no, you can't do that, especially hardware. Hardware, I think, is the hardest one because hardware is so expensive to get to market.
Chris, I think we could easily name this episode a masterclass on PropTech. I could just listen to it for hours and hours, listening to you.
Yeah.
So my next question is still around PropTech. I think we're still around here. Would like to pick your brain on a few more topics. As someone deeply involved in a startup ecosystem, what advice would you offer to entrepreneurs looking to enter the PropTech or real estate space?
So for me, I think there's a lot of discussion about people following their passion. People say, oh, like that's easy for you to say, like for people to say, follow your passion, and you get paid, the money will come. And I say, actually, like I wish earlier on in my career, like I'm very fortunate. Like I got to go through the Macy's leadership program, right? And I did that because a friend asked me to come to their career fair at UC Santa Barbara. It was on a whim. Like I got on my bike, put on my suit, went over to the career fair, right? And to help my friend. And I met these companies that were there. I was like, oh, wow, this is very professional. And like, I met Macy's and they're like, hey, why don't you give it a shot? We've got this program. We hire like 12 people a year, 15 people a year, very small program. I was like, wow, this is actually pretty cool. And they accepted me. And so I think like that taught me, that was a challenge. Like, it was like, my mom told me, don't get into retail. People told me, don't get into retail. I was like, well, I don't understand why they're telling me not to do this. It seems like a great program to learn from the CEO, CFO, all these people within the organization, work in different areas in the corporate office, go out to the field. There's a great career path here. So for me, I think that oftentimes we tend to strive for safety. We tend to go where we know the outcome rather than go the path less traveled. And I think like, Mike, who's over at Radco, who does his daily updates. I think he's on like episode 1600, right? And I listen to it all the time, and it's great because it's like little 2-minute snippets. He actually is inspiring me to do the same thing. I think I'm going to start challenging myself to do it. But I think he talks about like traveling the road less traveled, like, giving people the support they need. And sometimes we need people who believe in us more than ourselves to just kickstart us, right? Like we're right on the edge, but we're going after the safe bet. And I think that's where we need groups like Tara. We need people to be, I think first off, like people who can be responsive to others when they're in career shifts. One of the things I do, Adrian, and you may know this, you could probably share the stories. I reach out to people, like when I see someone who's lost a job, I like reach out right away to, even if I can't help them, maybe it's a marketing role or it's a CFO role and I don't know someone, but like I just placed someone 2 days ago. Like someone just got hired for a role where the company asked me to help them. This is 3 months ago at PropTech. We met up and he's like, hey, would you, a good friend, he's like, would you help me fill these roles? And I said, hey, I've got some candidates for you. And I, as a lot of people know to come to me because I offer help and I try to be there. I think there's Jesse Itzler he lives here in Atlanta. Great guy. He is writing a book right now. He just shared it with the public. He said he's writing a book called "Go to the Funeral." And so I think about times like funerals. I think about bad times in life when people get sick. I think a lot about when challenges happen in our family, when we lose our jobs, is like when someone's in. It's usually in a time of distress where people go, "Wow, I've been a marketer, I've been in sales, I've been doing this, or I've been an operator, and I don't know what to do next." And that's an opportunity to try something unique or new. And I think people just need to ask, like, "Hey, challenge yourself to go learn a new skill." For me, it was speaking, like getting out of my shell and going and speaking. And so now I speak on webinars. I just did a big one yesterday. I do NMHC and NAA, like I speak on stages. But for me, it's challenging myself to learn something new from every person I interact with. That's really, really important. Number two, it's writing down notes. I am a big believer in handwriting notes. And so to help other people find jobs, I'm always listening and asking every single person I talk to, almost every time I have a meeting, I say, "Is there something I can help you with? Are you hiring for a role right now?" So I know of over probably about 50 roles right now, and about 20 where I'm actually helping those companies. And I know probably over 80 people looking for jobs, and probably about 70% of those people aren't unemployed. They're fully employed. A majority of those people are fully employed, but looking for their next role. And I won't mention any names, but there's a lot of leadership who are looking to join great technology companies or looking to great other management or ownership groups who they're just not feeling value. And I know, Adrian, we could go on and on about this, right? Definitely around culture, how to treat people, KPIs, buy-in from your teams. Like these are things I really get deep in and excited about.
Awesome. And just kind of like flowing into that, I'm very curious. What do you think about full-time employment versus fractional work? Can you maybe contribute and discuss some cons and pros on those?
Absolutely. So I think number one is everything depends on your situation. So there's no do this, do that. Same thing with investing. Like I always say, it's not investing advice. It's just my experience, and I'm always kind of changing up. I think one of the key things is like you have to be, I have strong conviction, loosely held, and I'm willing to change my conviction upon learning new information. Right. Um, so I think a big thing is thinking about like how can I help other people make great decisions, and how can I help people through their process. I I don't want to tell someone like go find this job or go do this thing um, without them having the conviction to do it themselves. Um, but yeah, I mean, I get really excited when someone tells me like this is what I want to work on, and I'm taking a huge leap to do that. So that excites me when people can tell me that. I think well, if you can ask me, you know, a slight, I'm happy to go down like some rabbit holes of some examples. I just don't want to name any names, but maybe you can ask, in a slightly different way, like the question of like how I could better answer it without like speaking to specific people.
Chris, I want to switch gears a little bit
Okay.
right now and ask you a question about branding. How can a property management or a supplier partner company
Yeah.
leverage an industry influencer to help attract the best industry talent? How could they use a influencer to leverage that power of an influencer?
Yeah. So I think the influencer piece ties back to what you just asked about. I want to be cautious about name names, but if we think about influencers and what is an influencer, what is fractional work and what is full time work? Full time work to me can be fractional work, just adding up. Like a lot of times when you're at a company, you're an you're in operations, you're doing maintenance, overseeing it, you're doing budgeting, financials, you might even be doing selling by doing business development, and you're doing a lot of that in fractional work. Fractional work is very lonely. It's very it can also be very difficult because it comes and goes. right? For some people are like hourly, right? They're literally booking hours. Generally, when I work with a partner, like I'm always longer term. I always tell people, hey, I really don't do hourly. I will do, a period of time or a project. My wife has been in that for ages in the marketing world. She got to work with like Shaquille O'Neal. She got to work with like YouTube and some incredible brands, right? And they did stints of a year, 3 years, 5 years, right? So generally when I'm working with someone, it's not short term, it's more long term because it takes time. And I think with influencers, the same thing. Like influencers, you have to be careful if you just buy one spot with an influencer, you work with an influencer. I don't have a ton of experience in the influencer world per se, but I think influencers to me should be bought into the brand, and you have to be careful because I just saw a video, for instance, where the influencer was paid and it felt too much like a commercial. And I think it's what's important is like for me, I love it on podcasts and people like for me, anyone, if they were going to ever sponsor me, I was going to wear their logo on my body. I'd be like, hey, I know this team, and I got to know the founder. Like there's a company called 8 Sleep. They should maybe be a advertiser with you. 8 Sleep. I got to invest with the founder and got to meet him, and great guy, Mateo. He's down in Miami, and he is a race car driver who also cares deeply about sleep. And so for him, like that sleep is really important. And so that's what they do is they do data around sleep. And they got influencers, right? But they don't focus on the influencer part. They focus on people who are athletes and wear and use their technology. So I think a lot about that. Like, are you paying someone just to be the face, or are you actually working with someone that's a customer that cares about your product enough to wear it, to pay for it, and then says, hey, I want to be involved? Like LeBron James. I think LeBron James is involved with Calm or with the other one, and he reads stories. Matthew McConaughey reads stories on Calm. And so what's really cool about that is like they actually do a great job of reading these nighttime, bedtime stories for kids, I think. And they use it themselves. And then, oh, by the way, they probably own part of the company. And so I think about influence that way. Like, if you know 776 and Alexis Ohanian. Alexis Ohanian is the founder of Reddit. He's also a partner over at 776, and his wife is Serena Williams, right? And everyone wants a piece of her. Everyone wants to work with him. Both of them. And the key thing is for them to discover who are the right people that I want to put my name and face on, because influencers can hurt themselves by aligning with the wrong brands, number one. And number two, companies can hurt themselves by aligning with the wrong influencers. So for me, it's always a two-way street. How do we keep each other accountable? How are we clear on what the expectations are? And are you understanding the long-term pros and cons of working with each other? So for me, that's what it's always about, is like, I'm not looking at, I've got a vision for this year and for this month and for this day and this week, but I'm actually looking 15 to 20 years out. I'm looking at the next 30 years of my life and how I'm going to spend that and the things I'm doing today that's set up for 10 years. Like I'm very illiquid in my investments, as an example. Many of my investments are in real estate, like multifamily apartments, funds, startups that aren't going to exit for 7 to 10 to 15 years. And so for me, it's about building the future, much more so than, making a quick dollar today or tomorrow.
Thank you for sharing that. So, what is the greatest challenge on the horizon for multifamily operations in the near future? Referencing maybe within the next 12 to 24 months. How will you stay ahead of any potential pitfalls that may come during this time?
I mean, there's so many unique. When I talk to friends who are COOs or CEOs, I think number one, the biggest elephant in the room is interest rates. And because if at the end of the day, you can only innovate so much to help with profitability or cut expenses so much. And if your business plan was effectively built a certain way, and then interest rates double or go 2.5 times or even continue to climb, and your monthly net income of $300,000 a month, let's say, disappears because of interest and other expenses and inflation, you can't just solve for that on day one. So I think number one, you're going to see a lot of changing of hands just in properties in general. Right now, you're going to see a lot of cost cutting, and you're going to see. So I believe that the most important thing is technology that can save money is a core thing. So technologies that can save money, whether it's software, but also hardware. A lot of hardware that can save money for properties when people can't be on site. Talk all the time. I mean, I just spoke to an owner in New York who's a good friend. They just had like a $1.2 million water leak. One water leak flooded the entire elevators, multiple floors of the building. Tenants are moving out. Elevators, they have 2 of the elevators gone. All they have now is a freight elevator, and it's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and months to replace those elevators, right? Because of a water leak that could have been prevented, by the way. I won't mention the name of the company. My friend will definitely watch this. But I think a lot about those things. What are the things that are preventable that people aren't investing in? Maintenance. When it comes to maintenance, how are we thinking about the tracking of cracks in parking garages? And I think we're going to see an evolution where today it's left to the devices of the property and the staff to do things that there's way too many things to do. It's out of their control. There's not enough staff, maintenance teams on site. And a lot of times they're being asked to manage multiple properties, or it's third-party maintenance. And so I think a lot about the physical attributes to a building. When decks were falling, sadly, you've seen decks fall across the country, pipes burst in Texas and Georgia. And companies that can solve for those things, that reduces insurance. Insurance premiums are going up 30% to 80% in some places. That again wipes out profitability. So companies that can reduce premiums, reduce payouts, these are what people are talking about. Like the conversation I'm having with owners and in the portfolios that I'm invested in, they're really looking at where can we save costs, where can we cut expenses, how do we survive to 25, right, or 26, as some people are saying. But the innovation, and if I'm a founder looking to build innovation and looking to partner with these people, I'm looking for things that are not easily seen. They're problems that are easily seen, but they're oftentimes solutions that people haven't figured out the true solution to make it like a cost savings or a lower cost or a creative way to bring it to market. So that's what I really get. I think it's really important for customers is like, is this the right team as I'm looking out there? Oftentimes people go with the lowest cost and it ends up biting them in the butt and they end up spending a lot more. Whereas spending a little bit more can oftentimes get a lot more payback for that property and a product that's going to last 10 years. And I think that's a lot of challenges, a lot of cracks, a lot of foundations not looking good in buildings, and the core thing is safety. So someone else who's made a big impact on me is the team over at Bizzuto. So Toby Bizzuto, Stephanie Williams, Julie Smith. They have spent a lot of time and shared how they're fortunate to build. We're fortunate to work in an industry where we're building buildings and we're managing these buildings where people live. So we have to focus on building sanctuary. We have to really be implicit in like thinking about how we treat them. And are we making it safe? Are we standing up and backing our products and solutions? Those are really, really important things for me. So I get maybe a little sappy, but it's very important for me to think about legacy. Like we're on this planet for only a very short time, and thinking about like people who put their names on these buildings. And when we put a product to market, or if I'm working with a team, my name's partially attached to that, right? So I need to make sure like I fully believe it, fully understand it, and I can say what I'm going to say to it. And if I'm helping a team, if I'm helping an ownership group or an operations team to select technology or to roll out and implement technology, I'm not looking for the shortcut. I'm not looking for the fastest. I'm looking for the right solution to deploy that's going to help the teams across the board to get buy-in from marketing, HR, from the different, the maintenance teams, to the NOI and the, friend of mine, Tony, who manages billions of dollars of assets, right? These owners. I want to make sure that they're bought in to the long term, because when people say something didn't work, I'm always surprised. They go, "Oh, it didn't work. Why didn't it work? And what were the expectations?" So sometimes the expectations are misaligned from reality of what can actually be done. And so, I think that's a really important thing for me, is making sure the expectations are aligned and that we have a reality, and knowing that we can't solve all the problems today. We can solve many of them, but things are going to consistently evolve. And people who think, I was just talking to a really smart person at PropTech, and he said, when is all this technology going to slow down? When are we going to have fewer technology startups? Sorry, never. we're always going to have more. We're going to have more innovation. The problems in 10 years are going to be, that are going to be solving are going to be bigger than Facebook, right? And bigger than Apple. So, Jeff Bezos even said, someone's going to come along and disrupt Amazon. It happens. So long-winded way of saying, I'm doubling down on technology.
Chris, was such a treat to have you here with us today. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, thank you for doing this. I think your passion, Adrian, of not only bringing great speakers and innovators to the internet and sharing the spoken word with other people is phenomenal. Number two, your friendship, I appreciate that, and what you do for others and what you've done for myself is just awesome. So no, I recommend if people do want to reach out to me, feel free. I'm most active probably on LinkedIn. I do respond to DMs. Just make it personable. Tell me what I can help you with. I always say, always send a message. A lot of people don't send messages on their LinkedIn reach outs. And then, be intentional about like what you need, how you can help others. I'm very clear with people when I talk to them, like, I can't help you with this, but I'm really good at these 3 things. And what I found is like the coaching. I love to help people improve. And I think for myself, I didn't see the value. That's our timer. We're almost done. I didn't see the value in personal coaching early on in my career. And for me now to have personal coaching, getting feedback on a weekly, sometimes a daily basis from others has been so helpful for me. And I love doing that for others now. So it's been great. But yeah, anyone can feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy, whether it's connecting them with companies that are looking to hire, whether they're looking to hire, or I think I can just help others with the experience I've learned. But thank you for doing this, Luisa. This has been fun. I can't wait to do it again. I hope you'll have me sometime in the future.
Definitely. Lisa, any closing thoughts?
Again, I'm just very thankful for Adrian and opening up this space. Very enlightening round today with Chris. Loved hearing about this legacy. It just really stuck to me because absolutely with your talent and your knowledge and giving back really inspires all of us to maybe even thrive to do the same. So today was an awesome episode. Thank you, Adrian, for putting it together.
Chris, thanks again for joining us today. Luisa, thank you very much for joining me for the first time as a co-host. It was amazing having you on.
Awesome.
Everybody, thank you very much for watching us. This is episode number 96 of Multifamily Chronicles. We're approaching 100 episodes. Thank you for taking time out of your busy days to watch this episode. We hope to see you back here soon. Have a great day.
All right. Cheers, y'all.